Call to order. Good evening, everyone. The date is July 8, 2026. The time is 5:01 p.m. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Rochelle Park Township Committee to order. Pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, notice of July 8th special meeting was published on the Township website on July 2nd. Copies of all notices are on file with the Township Clerk and have been made available to the public. Roll call, please.
Committee Woman Tucci?
Here.
Committee Woman Josh Covello?
Here.
Committee Woman Smith?
Here.
Mayor and Deputy Mayor will be a little bit late to the meeting, but he's absent now. Mayor Miller?
Here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Any correspondence this evening?
None at the moment, Mayor.
Thank you so much. All right. Oh, but first, we're going to jump to discussion on the annual audit and corrective action plan. So our CFO, Roy Rigatano, is here. Roy, please take it away.
Okay, so the audit this year is, as far as I'm concerned, almost perfect. We can't get perfect yet, but we're really close. So there were 4 comments. 2 of the 4 are basically the same. So contracts award for goods and services in excess of the bid should be approved by a formal resolution in the minutes. So we're making sure that they're in the minutes this year. They were prepared, but we didn't keep them in the minutes. Fees charged for Recreation Department must be approved by formal resolution. That was corrected last month. That is now corrected. Reimbursements for completed prior year grant receivables due to the capital fund, we got those back in March already. Thank you to Councilwoman Township Committee. She helped with that. Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, that was the $75,000.
Yes.
So we got it. And the last one is the co-op. This is all on me. So we bought a DPW vehicle last year. We saved probably $40,000 or more. We used the national co-op. Everything was fine except I forgot to tell Gina to advertise for the co-op itself to purchase it. That's your audit. It is just about perfect. Couldn't do it without all of you up there. Thank you. And the staff is just amazing. You've had no comments in taxes, virtually no comments with the any of the departments. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. All right. Good evening, gentlemen. Any questions for Roy?
No, I'd just like to thank Roy, the Finance Department, the auditors, for all your hard work that went into preparing the audit and to complete the audit. It was an excellent audit as far as I'm concerned. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Roy, I have a question. The one with the fees, that was for recreation?
Yes.
Okay, so going forward, that we have to approve that.
It's in. You approved it June.
So we go.
Every year we'll put that on, January, February.
So we can do it automatically in January? Or-
Yeah, we will. This way it's part of the, our opening of the year. Gina, if we could do that when we do our, year end, the resolutions for the, fees. For recreation fees, we'll put it on in January.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. So this is great. It turned out to be a very good audit. And,
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yep.
We all thank you, right? I could
Yep.
say we worked hard on it.
Yes,
Great year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roy, and thank you to our finance team.
yes.
Job well done.
Thank you.
All right. Our next discussion item is a presentation from our planner, Joe Burgess, regarding the legal process for redevelopment and condemnation under New Jersey law. Let's turn it over to Joe Burgess.
Well, thank you. I would love to say I could be quicker than that, but I can't not be. That was pretty good. I do have a quick handout, which will help with the presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I was asked to talk about the area native redevelopment process and redevelopment plans. There's actually two kinds of area in needs of redevelopment that you can go through. One is a standard one where you would not use your condemnation or eminent domain powers to acquire property. If you are going to consider using condemnation as part of the process, you have to declare that at the very outset of your process and include that in your resolution where you're directing the planner to prepare the condemnation area in need study. The actual analysis for whether it's condemnation or non-condemnation is exactly the same, but it is simply that you have to identify the fact right up front as to whether you're going to use that one power. The area need legislation adopted by the state is called the Local Redevelopment and Housing Law. That was adopted actually back in the early 90s, and it took all the old, what they called blight statutes, and put them all together into one single new piece of legislation. And the reason for that was because those various blight pieces of legislation occurred over about a 40-year period, and over time, legislation being what it is in the state of New Jersey, sometimes people didn't pick up areas where with the new legislation or new regulations, they didn't quite pick up all the conflicts with the old one. So that was the reason why they adopted the new Local Redevelopment and Housing Law, to refine the system, make it smoother, and make sure there's no internal conflicts in the regulations. If you turn to page 3, you would see that all the different kinds of powers that an area, that the Local Redevelopment and Housing Law gives you, and it's varied. Of course, there's the designation of property as an area in need of redevelopment. You could also do an area in need of rehabilitation, which I'll get into towards the end of the presentation. This is what allows you to prepare redevelopment plans. Through this process, you're allowed to issue bonds. You could use your eminent domain powers that I had indicated. You're even allowed to convey property to a developer without the need to go through the public bidding process. Thank you. And you could also grant tax exemptions and abatements if you so choose. The actual process is spelled out on page 4. Significantly, once the governing body decides to go through this process, you're obligated to adopt a resolution directing the planning board to prepare an area need study. And it's the planning board that prepares the study, and whom I would be working with when preparing that study. They then hold a meeting or public meeting on that study, and then they are obligated to make a recommendation to you as to whether or not you want to designate an area in need of redevelopment or not. Irrespective of what the board recommends, whether they are recommending property be included, or alternatively, whether they're recommending that certain property or no properties be included as such a study, you get to choose and decide what you want to do in the end. Theirs is only a recommendation. Once you make that determination and you decide, let's say, to do a redevelopment plan, you again go back and direct the planning board to prepare that redevelopment plan. Basically, it's a glorified zoning ordinance in the end. They prepare the plan, hold a public meeting to discuss it with the public, and then they will make a recommendation to you as to the adoption of the redevelopment plan. You are not obligated to adopt their recommendation in whole or in part. You could reject it completely. You could adopt it in whole, or you could adopt parts of it and not other sections, or you could change it as well. You're entitled to do that. But suffice it to say, they prepare the plan, but you make the final decision on it. That spells out basically the process. There are very specific criteria that the planning board will analyze to determine if an area meets the criteria or not. They're spelled out on page 5 of the document. I'm not going to read all of that, but it's sufficient to say the planning board is obligated to they only have to make the determination that someone meets one of these 8 criteria, except if they chose only criteria H, which is the consistency with the state's smart growth principles, which, to sum it up in one sentence, it relates to sound land use planning principles. If they focus only on criteria H, they would then be obligated to identify a second criteria. But the criteria is pretty straightforward. It regards deteriorated conditions. It regards, abandonment of buildings or obsolete layouts on sites that, need upgrading and the like. The redevelopment plan itself, the criteria are spelled out on page 6. You have to deal with how this plan will relate to local planning objectives. That means looking at your last master plan and make that determination. And then basically it puts together a series of use and area and bulk standards, the same as as any zoning ordinance would. The only difference is if you're acquiring property, the document has to identify those sites that are recommended to be acquired and the rationale behind that acquisition. And you're also obligated to identify the fact that this plan will, how it relates, if it's on the borders of your municipality, how it relates to the master plans of contiguous municipalities, the county master plan, as well as the state development and redevelopment plan. The area in need of rehabilitation provisions are spelled out on page 7. This is a lot simpler approach, as you can see, most significantly in the ones that most municipalities in Bergen County focus on is criteria 2 and 6. If more than half of your housing stock is at least 50 years old, that alone allows you to do an area in need of rehabilitation. If the majority of your water and sewer infrastructure is at least 50 years old, that alone allows you to designate an area in need of rehabilitation. And there's some other issues that are pretty simply spelled out on that page. The last page talks about the strengths and weaknesses of the rehabilitation process. One of the interesting things about that rehabilitation process, it can be initiated solely through a resolution by this body. You don't have to actually do a study. You can just adopt a resolution saying this is what we want to do. We always recommend that it's better to do a study because if someone's going to take you to court over it, then you have a lot of background information to support your resolution. So that's one of the things we suggest. The criteria obviously is much easier than the area in need of redevelopment. It does only permit very short-term pilots, whereas the pilot under a area in need of redevelopment can be as long as 30 years. Under a rehabilitation program, it's only 5 years. That's a significant difference. It does permit redevelopment agreements with developers if needed. Some of the negative features of a rehabilitation approach is that it does not permit you to condemn properties like a redevelopment plan area need study would. It's much more difficult than to acquire abutting properties to make something happen. You can't, as I just mentioned, you cannot engage in long-term pilots, and there's certainly reduced financial incentives to encourage rehabilitation in contrast to the redevelopment process. And that is why you read the papers, for example, in towns that are doing this, 99 times out of 100, towns are doing area needs of redevelopment. I wasn't the 15 seconds that my colleague was, but that wasn't bad. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions, Township Committee?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I have a question, Joe. What if it was already done on the property, if this study was already done previous? How long is it good for?
The redevelopment plan is good for as long until you want to amend it.
So if the plan was already adopted for redevelopment, it could be till you amend it? Or-
You are entitled to amend the redevelopment plan, yes.
Okay, and then if that was already done, what's the next procedure?
If it was done and it was in accordance with the plan, there's really nothing more to do, I would assume. I know I was handed one redevelopment study, and I'm going to look into that to really answer that question after I take a look at that. But the focus of attention then typically will become, have conditions changed in the area to such a degree that it really warrants a new redevelopment plan or not.
Okay, and then if the township decides that it's going to go forward with this, does the township then have to purchase this property, or how does that work?
No, even where you have a condemnation area need, you in the end are not obligated to condemn property. But
We're
by
not obligated to
stating,
condemn the property?
you are not obligated to.
Okay.
But by designating the study as a condemnation area need study, at least it gives you that opportunity
To,
to condemn if you wanted to. But that's your choice in the end.
okay. So if it's condemnation, how long, let me put it this way. If you want to condemn property, is that the property that hasn't been used or utilized for a while to condemn it? Or if it is being used in some aspects, can you still condemn it?
Let me answer it this way. When you do your area need of redevelopment, whether it's condemnation or not, not all properties have to be deteriorated and meet the criteria. The statute talks about how there may be certain properties that don't meet the criteria, but in the end are necessary for the redevelopment of the area that you're looking at. So, you can make adjustments to an existing redevelopment plan, for example, and with that in mind, and as we prepare new redevelopment plans, that's always your option.
And that would then be a study done by the land use board?
The planning of it is done by the land use board, but in the end, you make the final decision as to,
Under their recommendation?
yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, one thing I did want to add, from what I understand, the first step here will be for me to look at, I guess, West Passaic and Rochelle Avenue to determine where it may be most appropriate to proceed. So that would be step one, and then following that initial step, we would then talk about specific areas, once I do that study, talk about specific areas where it may be appropriate to proceed.
Mr. Burgess, thank you for being here, and thank you for the full explanations on rehabilitation and redevelopment. In front of you, there's a copy of a redevelopment study that was done, and apparently our township committee designated the area as an area in need of rehabilitation by resolution. If you look on the first page in there, if you'll turn the first page, second paragraph down on the left side. In March 19, 2014, there was areas delineated. My question would be, obviously this is an important piece. This will be helpful for us, right, to start out, to revisit this. But if you declare an area for rehabilitation, do you box yourself into a corner that you can never turn it into a redevelopment study? In other words, if you go in one direction or the other, does that pin you in only to that direction, right? So if you're in rehabilitation, can it become a redevelopment study rather than?
I'd like to beg off on that answer for one specific reason. This is entitled, on the cover sheet, a redevelopment plan. I would like to read this to see in the end what criteria were used before the 2014 council decided to call it a rehabilitation plan, to find out whether or not the rehabilitation standards used in a document that the then planner called a redevelopment plan. So it's kind of, this is
Right,
unusual. right off the bat.
that's what I did notice. The two different terms being used,
Yeah, that's quite unusual, so.
It looks like they did, I mean, there was some extensive work done on this in the past, which might be helpful to us.
Well, I know the firm, and they tend to do a good job, but it just seems odd that it's called a redevelopment plan, but then
Point to rehabilitation.
it talks about rehabilitation.
Yeah, no, I just noticed that too.
I could better answer the question after I go through this.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Just a really quick question. I just wanted to ask about, as far as the rehabilitation goes, the criteria too, more than half of the housing stock is at least 50 years old. Like, I would like, as far as, if you could explain that a little further.
Well, typically one uses census data, because in the census data, it identifies when all homes in the municipality are built, and they give the statistics of how many are built at different decades. And as long as you can show that more than half, it doesn't even have to suggest that the housing stock is in bad condition. That's the odd part of
That's what I was
this
going to, that's kind of
criteria.
where I was going with it.
It's simply, is it 50 years old or older? And then you could designate it. You could use that criteria for the area rehabilitation designation.
Well, wouldn't that be more than half the houses?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I mean, that kind of would put a lot of, I know, would put my house in that
Yeah, I mean,
category.
yeah.
So does that mean that because my house is over 50 years old, that it would be in that category that?
Yeah, but typically, think about what rehabilitation is.
You
Typically,
define that, exactly. That's
yeah,
kind of where-
typically it's the rehabilitation of homes. And oftentimes municipalities will establish a funding program for primarily income qualified households to utilize that funding to rehabilitate their homes. It's not that your home could be taken, for example, if that's your concern. It's simply for the municipality to establish a funding program to assist income qualified households to rehabilitate deteriorated homes. So if your home is in good condition but 75 years old, you're not going to qualify, because one of the components will be to identify the criteria to determine if something is in need of rehabilitation. And the regulations are pretty specific about deteriorated features.
Okay, so what defines that? So what defines good condition, what's what one person's treasure is another person's trash in a lot of ways.
How does it actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
How does it actually, who goes out and determines that?
Typically what happens is we will go out with the building department and drive up and down streets and try to determine, what house appears deteriorated or not. In certain instances, we have knocked on doors to ask homeowners about certain things. If you have a lot of infrastructure inside your house that's falling apart, for example, all your bathrooms aren't working and, that sort of thing, or your plumbing is constantly flooding your basement, that's a condition that we would want to know about, and that would qualify within the context of the regulations, that would qualify as a house that would qualify for the funding. But then you have to look at the homeowner. When they make the application, they have to show their income to determine whether or not their income qualifies.
Yeah, Robert Moses called, he wants the Cross Bronx Expressway back. So.
Yes.
I thank you.
Thank you. All right.
You have to be of a certain age to know the Robert
Understand
Moses.
that, yes.
One more question I have, or one more, it would be, I'd like to ask you if you could just explain to the entire dais, the difference between the process that we're talking about now and just simply rezoning areas asking the land use board to look at areas for rezoning, within the township.
Okay, for properties just to be simply rezoned, that's a simple process that the planning, you would recommend to the planning board to look into the issue. We would assist them in preparing a report identifying whether the rezoning makes sense. You rezone the property.
And who does this
Oh, the
Township
governing
committee does
body.
that, or the land use board does that?
Well, the land use board, well, typically, the land use board is the entity that prepares an ordinance, the regulations. You put it in the form of an ordinance, you introduce it. It gets referred to the planning board for what's called a consistency review with the master plan, and then it comes back here on second reading and you adopt it. The downside to that, or the one negative feature in contrast to the area need designation, you don't have any of those powers that I mentioned earlier in terms of, choosing a developer, preparing those ancillary features of a redevelopment plan that you don't get through a simple rezoning request. A rezoning request is just what that is. You're changing the zoning of the property. You're not doing anything else.
Okay.
You're not preparing a specific plan for redevelopment, because when we prepare a redevelopment plan, you're going to get a concept plan for that property,
Okay.
for these properties, to show how you want it to develop. And that's probably the biggest benefit of going the area need redevelopment approach, because you will really get to fine tune exactly what you want in terms of building orientation, look, and everything else, which you don't really have through a simple rezoning.
Rezoning just gives the current owner the ability to reuse or repurpose their property
Exactly.
the way they want.
You rezone it, let's just make up a scenario, you rezone it for a
Gotcha.
3-story multifamily building,
I got
and then you just have to wait to see what you get.
Mhm.
With this redevelopment plan approach,
More
you
specific.
get to structure the plan that you want to see,
Gotcha.
and then offer it to developers to build. And typically they will come in and make minor adjustments because they each have their own particular approach. But you have a lot more control through this process.
Got it.
All right, well, as Mr. Burgess mentioned, there's definitely been a curiosity whether properties along Rosedale Avenue and West Passaic do meet this criteria. So can I have a motion to authorize Burgess Associates to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether properties along Rosedale Avenue and West Passaic meet the criteria for designation as areas in need of redevelopment and/or areas in need of rehabilitation? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Well, you also want to
Wait.
instruct the planning board
Yeah,
to undertake the study, correct?
right, that's what,
Yeah, well, this is a preliminary step. The first step will simply be for me to go out and look at the area to decide what may meet the
It
criteria.
starts with him.
And I'll put together a proposal to tell you what that would cost. And then if we will sit down and talk about what sites do you want to look at. And let's say, just to make up a number, there's 4 areas that we pick. You will then pick which ones you want to start with. And with each of those, there will be a separate agreement to do a redevelopment plan for that particular area. And that is what gets referred to the planning board for their,
but you already have one area set, right?
well, this is unusual. They got to take a look at this first.
Can we get a copy of that also? I see
I have.
Mr. Witzke
There's
has
the
it.
middle of a motion, so.
We can read more.
Hold on a second. So we just want to clarify what we're going to do for this, then. Is it, he's going to just go out and look?
Yeah,
Give us
we're authorizing Burgess to determine whether properties, do a preliminary investigation, determine whether properties along Rochelle Avenue and West Passaic meet the criteria for designation of areas in need of redevelopment and areas of need of rehabilitation.
And if I may, that's going to be like preliminarily the assessment. And then when you tell me, when you adopt a resolution directing the planning board to look at, section A,
What you can bring to us.
that's when we do a formal analysis of that area. But
No, no,
And during that preliminary, you also have the opportunity to look at this and see how that fares up.
yes, certainly.
That'll Should be a helpful guide.
I would assume so.
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committee Woman Apici?
Yes.
Committee Woman George Carvello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chewinski?
Yes.
Chair Miller?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Burgess, for being here.
My pleasure. Good to see you all.
I'm sorry, what's the number of that?
And do you need a ride
That
to
would
see the
be,
property?
198.
98.
198?
We're a little anxious.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burgess. Really appreciate you being here this evening.
Pleasure. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Good night, thank you.
All right, any correspondence?
None at this time.
Awesome. All right, new business. So I'm going to dive into new business by discussing some of our ordinances this evening. So I'll start off with ordinance number 1272-26. So the township received correspondence from the owner of the Tyson House explaining that while they have no intention of demolishing or fundamentally altering the historic structure, certain restrictions currently in place have created practical challenges in fully utilizing the property and complying with applicable building and life safety requirements. So after reviewing those concerns, we're introducing an ordinance that provides the flexibility necessary for the owners of the property to adapt the property for one of the uses already permitted under the Historic Home Overlay District while complying with applicable building and life safety codes and preserving the character and integrity of the building. It's really important that we emphasize that this ordinance does not add or expand any permitted uses. And remember, those uses are restaurant, banquet and event facility, bed and breakfast, museum, professional office, and art gallery. But ultimately, the ordinance is about making sure the township's original vision for the Tyson House can realistically be achieved by allowing the uses already permitted under the ordinance to function as intended. Any questions on that?
So are you looking at this as are they looking for like a life safety issue? Yeah, I'm gonna,
For them to,
Emergency,
they need an egress.
emergency egress.
Yeah, from the third floor and the second floor.
Now, my question, council, would they be under, the law that says the age of the house? Could they be grandfathered in or no, because they've reconstructed a lot of other stuff?
Well, this property has issues because when the town sold it, they put certain restrictions on it. That's the only issue that has to be addressed.
So the deed has deed restrictions for historic?
Well,
Does everybody know what the deed looks like?
Yes, we
okay.
reviewed it, and it lists several uses that are permitted,
Okay.
which is a permitted use for the building. So this is to
So
allow him to.
Yeah, they can't allow any of those uses to happen unless they follow
Upgrade their
building,
safety.
yeah, unless they upgrade to their
So
safety
you're saying
standards.
like an egress, so there'd be a fire safety for the
Yes.
floor?
If they build that, then they're violating the historic
That's-
overlay.
Oh,
So that's why this is why we have to amend this. Yeah,
and it's necessary.
yeah,
My
absolutely. Totally.
Only, I think, only to the rear of the building where it's not visible from the street or the front.
Yeah, yeah.
It won't be visible from the street or the front, so you're not gonna open the.
But I know we do have, there's a law, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can be grandfathered in on the age of the house. But, I mean, I understand what you're saying too, you want to make sure that the egress is there. So, of course, we want safety
Yeah,
first,
the
right?
building department fully weighed in on this, the construction official, building inspector, fire inspector,
So
so
everybody's on the same page.
this is the
Perfect.
feedback, yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then I also want to briefly just address ordinance number 1271-26. As we've discussed publicly over the past several months, the Township Committee continues to move forward the transition to the Bergen County Public Safety Operations Center. Tonight, we're introducing a bond ordinance that appropriates $675,000 and authorizes the issuance of up to $642,500 in bonds or notes to fund the technology and communications upgrades necessary to support the transition. A major priority throughout this transition has been enhancing the technology our first responders rely on every single day. And while less expensive alternatives were available, we believe our officers and first responders deserve the highest level of communication, compatibility, and reliability to support our community's long-term public safety needs. And we view this as an opportunity to strengthen and modernize our public safety technology. And it's important to understand that much of the equipment included in this ordinance was already scheduled for replacement as a part of its normal life cycle in the near future. So it's important to remember that this ordinance establishes the maximum authorized amount for the project, but if the final cost is lower than authorized, the township will simply borrow less. But it's also important to mention that the CFO informed me that this is paid off over 10 years and costs the average household just $2 a month. But overall, we're pursuing grant funding and reimbursement opportunities that will remain a priority throughout this project. And we've seen communities who have transitioned to Bergen PSOC successfully secure outside funding for public safety technology upgrades, and we'll continue working to maximize every available opportunity to reduce costs for the Rochelle Park taxpayers.
Okay, Mayor?
Yeah, please.
So, I got a chance to speak. I see we have, Lieutenant Kowski here. I know there's a letter here. I believe that you,
He'll
okay.
address that later. Yeah.
One of the things that I know that was talked about was that the Motorola system that they're still looking at, correct? Samantha, to go forward with Motorola,
Yeah.
that they have given a $50,000, am I correct there, Lieutenant?
Correct.
$50,000 discount because of that. So that's a little extra savings for the township. 50,000 comes back or out of the amount that's needed or toward stuff that's needed. So that's a great, and I know that you worked on it, Ed, and thank you. I understand that you did a lot of work on a lot of this, and I suppose you're going to talk about it, but thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? Any other new business from the Township Committee?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give some thanks for our 250 celebration that just happened, the July 3rd. July 3rd was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Lightning, fireworks were out, but
Tree branch.
yeah, we didn't get a chance to, but I thought July 4th really hit it off really well. I thought we had a great time at the American Legion. Food, music, live music, DJs, it was just a really good time. So I want to thank the Township Committee for all of your hard work and for helping us the last 6 months. I want to especially thank my co-liaison, Jenna Peachy. Thank you for really helping me out. When the mayor first said to me, hey, Sean, you want to do the 250? I go, I think I might need some help. So thank you, Jen. I really appreciate all the help you did.
Anytime.
Michaela's not here, but Michaela was a lifesaver. We must have changed that order 2 or 3 times. And she called me on the day to make sure that I got everything on Saturday. So I just want to give her a shout out. I want to give Andrew Matson, who's here, and Susan Iabucci, our 2 members of 250 who were there at every meeting, and we had meetings like every 2 weeks, so it was intense, especially coming down the stretch. So I really want to thank both of them. Rec chairs, Mark Wrigley and Rob Frace were lifesavers on the 3rd when we had to pick up all the food from ShopRite. It was intense, and my car's, they got a pickup, it was good, but it wasn't that good. So their cars, and we took everything back, was just thanking them a lot. The American Legion, Dennis Duddy, as usual, the man always takes care of things. He was absolutely integral in the whole 250 celebration. And all of the American Legion volunteers. They are amazing, an amazing group of people. Flo and Bruce Addington, and their daughter, whose name escapes me. Ardell, unbelievable. They are an incredible family. Just getting to meet them, they were awesome. And our sponsors, Outback Steakhouse, the burgers. When we got to the frozen burgers, everybody could kind of start telling what the Outback burgers were gone. So that was wild. But Outback thank you for the chocolate chip cookies and the burgers. Asadero, they were great. Tacos, they were unbelievable. Thank them. Rumba Cubana, thank them for all the money. They donated some serious cash, and so did Invictus. So thank all the sponsors and thank everybody. We saw a couple police officers at the event, so thanking them, and just it was an all-around really good event. So thank you, everybody. And Jen, if I missed anybody, did I get everybody? All right.
If I may.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Thank you
Yeah.
for heading this up, because I saw it was a lot of work.
No.
And we kind of stood there in the park at night, raining in branches the night before, even though the fireworks went off at, I think, 10:30 they went off.
Yeah, 10 o'clock, 10:30.
And Jen, also, both of you did a terrific job. Hot as bleeds, but we got through it. There was misting fans there too.
Yes.
Which helped tremendously.
Yes.
Behind the grill, I know. Mr. Mattson was also behind the grill and sweating. The photo booth was wonderful.
Yeah.
A lot of people got great pictures from that.
That was really cool.
And most of us look melted, but
Yeah.
that's okay. We're good, but you guys did a terrific job, and thank you for bringing that up.
It truly takes a village,
It does.
so.
All right, thank you so much, Sean.
One more comment.
And in our American Activity Committee, yes, Mr. Twinski.
No, we're not doing a dunk tank.
No,
As hot as it was, you would have appreciated a dunk tank.
you would have appreciated.
You knew, that is a very, well played, well played.
I'd like to also know, it was a great event, you guys did a hell of a job.
One more shout out. Who? DJ John.
Yeah.
And the bands. What were the bands' names?
The Adventure soundtrack and.
The Adventure soundtrack and the second one? Jam the Torpedoes. I'm glad I thought of John the DJ, the bands was really nice combination, so I'm glad I remembered them.
You know, in that kind of heat, you really get to see what kind of volunteers you have when everybody showed up
Yes.
ready to go.
100%.
And nobody bowed out.
No.
I will say Mark Wrigley had a very interesting cooler that had a little air conditioning.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I did love that.
No, it's pretty good.
Awesome.
Well done.
Thank you all.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. All right, public comments. May I have a motion to open up to public comments?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public comments is now open. Please state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Matson, 14 Eldorado Court. Just for everybody that's gonna watch this at home, I feel like it's not gonna make sense. The auditor, he like casually mentioned $70,000, and it sounded like you guys all knew what that meant, but if you could explain that, I don't know, I didn't understand what that.
The auditor mentioned, what about
I heard
$70,000?
$70,000, something about that, or there was something in the audit regarding $70,000, did I mishear that? Or no?
The 75,000 that we, from the state, right, the grant.
That was what he brought up about.
Yeah, the grant.
Okay, I just didn't understand, I just know.
It was a grant that was worked on.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense. Also for the redevelopment, Burgess is gonna go down, Rochelle Ave and West Passaic Street, and he's limited to those two corridors. Is that, or can he does he have the ability to like meander?
I think that's where he's going to start. Do you have another suggestion for?
No, I'm just thinking like, we have businesses of an industrial area that might be one to be looked into as well, that's not directly on Rochelle Ave. Just a thought.
Central?
Yeah, right over here. Like, where the
You're talking where
Domino's is.
Domino's is, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, the domino, I can't hear you, sorry.
Yeah, like where the Domino's is. I don't know if it's,
I don't know if it's on.
You want to press the button, it will turn on. Sorry about that.
Want to start from the
Here
beginning?
we go.
I could start from the beginning. July 4th, I think everybody, Sean, Jen, you guys did a great job. I just had one concern, and I think it's great to like do the self-congratulatory stuff because the volunteers did do an amazing job. But I do feel like, and I've heard another resident get up in the past and talk about how volunteers aren't really respected in this town. And I kind of felt that on Saturday. And I know I've made it clear to some of you privately, but I just would like to share this more publicly. That was a lot of work. We met like bi-weekly. We put a lot into that. And then on Wednesday, it becomes, hey, there's potential storms coming in. And what are we going to do about this? And as a committee, I know I kind of took the bull by the horns because I'm a little bit of a weather nerd to determine, all right, I'm going to communicate with the band because we can't have a band come if there's going to be like a washout at 3 o'clock for a 12 to 6 event. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to create this little like, we're going to look at the weather every day, and then by Friday night, we'll make a decision. And I don't know, like, at a certain point, it's like, this is a lot of work. I felt like mentally taxed by it. And then even Saturday morning to wake up and be like, oh, thank God I made the right decision. But like, I made the right decision. That's the key word. I made the decision. So it made me think. We do have an Office of Emergency Management, and as we see, like, the storm was bad. And when I reached out on Wednesday, I had communicated to Sean that this storm is going to be scattered, but all the weather lingo I was hearing was, where it hits, it's going to be bad.
So, was there a plan in place from the Office of Emergency Management for this event? And did it also include the event that was on North Drive, where there was residents gathered with a permit, so it was known? And like, what was the plan? And is this like a standard plan of action, or is it event specific? And then who's monitoring the weather? Like, there's a whole line of questions to go down, but really it's just more of like, I felt really taxed with having to do that, and like it was my call. And I didn't really appreciate that. And I know we have the OEM director, and it would have just been nice to feel like I was in the loop on whatever was or wasn't or could have been happening, because I don't really know. I'm not on that part of the membrane. I'm just the volunteer. I really felt like, we worked our asses off. And then like, wait, there's somebody that gets paid to do this job. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
So I can answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mess. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. PJ.
So I did send an email on the 26th or the 26th, to all the department heads, the police department, the fire department, CERT, OEM, Tommy, you were on it, Sean was on it.
Yeah.
So I did let them know kind of the itinerary of what we were doing, where we were going to be at. And the OEM director did write back to me with everyone on it, that there was a 20-page all hazards incident action plan that had been developed and will serve as our primary framework for a coordinated response. I didn't physically see it. I don't think it was attached to the email to us.
I don't think, I'd have to go look at the
Yeah,
email.
I'm
Can
looking
take
at the
your word
email, I
for
don't
it?
see that it was attached, but they did have something. So, to my understanding, you guys did meet, correct? Okay.
There's a previous plan in place, it's an action plan for stuff like this.
So there was something, okay.
There was something, yeah. Well,
I would, just like I said, I would want to know if it was event specific, because that makes it sound like it wasn't. There was 2 events going on at the same time. And one went later, and I know it went through the storm when it got really bad. And I was out there, and it got bad here. And it's just a matter of like, we were on the ground. We were the front line. So if there was a plan in place, who knew about it? And what was the people with the plan, what was their plan to communicate with us, said plan, after the emergency hit? Because we were never informed at any point. So I'd have to assume at some point, if there was an emergency, there would have been this response of some kind. And then we would have been our capacity of the organizers of the event, where people are looking to us as to what's our next move. Where does that put us in the chain of command? And was that part of the plan?
Yeah, that was it.
So,
Go ahead.
It's just
No, I understand.
so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So that's what
Mr. Mattson,
I want to address, if I may, Mr. Mattson, that I think Mr. Mattson has a very good point in that aspect, where if something like this should come up, I don't know, the next one would probably be 9/11 ceremonies, whatever, that, somebody tells, and I get it, you're the volunteer, you didn't want to make that call, but you did, right? And I understand that. So maybe going further or forward, it could be somehow communicated that,
I think it's state law that the OEM director is supposed to take the.
I don't know the state law of it.
So, yeah. So the only thing that we can really speak to is the correspondence that we received, and the last correspondence we received was on June 28th.
Right.
I don't know of any other additional correspondence that took place. And I also don't know if the folks who did put in the permit for the block party received any correspondence. So we will need to look into that as well. But you make a valid point. I appreciate you bringing it to us tonight. Anybody else?
Evening, Mayor and committee members and members of the public. I'd like to read a memo from the desk of Chief Pinto. He apologized for not being able to attend tonight's special meeting due to a previous commitment. However, I wanted to take time to share the progress that has taken place over the past few weeks since moving ahead with the shared service agreement for our dispatch service. In the past month or so, there have been at least 5 extensive meetings that have taken place between the police administration and the staff of the county dispatch center, as well as with the township administrator, the appropriate authority, and department heads, in collaborating on making this transition happen in a way that will keep our small town and its residents and stakeholders safe. We continue to have these meetings and exchange policy and necessary information in a collaborative, productive manner to ensure the very best of services is received by the township. A huge part of making this transition happen so that it maintains and provides for the continuity of high-quality services and ultimately the safety of our residents and stakeholders is through the purchasing of the Motorola Solutions mobile and portable radios and assorted lobby upgrades and computer equipment that will allow for car-to-car, officer-to-officer, dispatch radio communication advancements and eliminate dead spots for our officers in the field who rely on technology in receiving and broadcasting information in real time, and our residents who come to the lobby to have real-time access to the dispatch center and for county dispatch center to monitor our lobby in real time. Additionally, this bond allows for the necessary computer system changes with computer monitor aided dispatch and records management system for the police reports of all types and upgrades to the county electronic summons platform and our patrol vehicles, which allows for more productivity and less out-of-service time for officers. That's the desk of Chief Pinto.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dukowski.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
And I think just to answer Mr. Matthews' question, the normal progression of things are if there's a weather event, a high weather event, if it's previously known, OEM will be on standby and get involved. But if it's something that kind of springs out, then we call the police department and then we can dispatch OEM for something like that. Okay. Thank you.
Can I speak to Lieutenant?
Yeah.
So, Lieutenant, two things. Let's look at that line again that says the transition happened in a way that will keep our small town and its residents and stakeholders safe.
Yes.
So moving this transition over, the statement is saying our residents are safe.
We have policies that will be put in place to make sure of that.
I'm sorry?
We have policies to make sure that that's put in place to make sure of that.
You have policies that are being put in place to make sure of that. Okay.
Correct.
So we're working on, I know there's another meeting, I believe, on the 21st, it's coming up.
Yeah, we have training coming up too.
Sorry?
We have training coming up too, training for the new dispatch services. So every officer is going to be trained in
For the
a host
use
of things, in the use of the computer equipment and for how these policies are being put in place on being dispatched to headquarters and stuff. So there's going to be a set of training involved for each officer.
So is there something with the phones now, that it's going to be different with phones and communication with phones?
The phones will stay the same.
We're not going over to an AT&T, or is it going to stay with the Verizon, or what are we doing with that?
The town-wide phones that we have from Verizon. Yes, there is we had gotten a presentation by AT&T FirstNet, and they gave us a pretty good offer on exchanging our older modems for newer modems and new cell phones.
At a reasonable price?
The modems are free.
There you go. That's a reasonable price, right?
Correct.
But I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if anything should go down in the dispatching area, that they can go phone to phone with the dispatching. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, there's actually there's a tertiary backup system. So if the first line of defense goes down, internet or whatever goes down, if the phones go down, there's a second line of defense. There's actually a third line of defense, which is Verizon, but will be AT&T.
Okay.
So there's actually 3 lines of defense to prevent any phones down or anything.
So if anything should happen, God forbid, I know there was a terrible thing that happened with Paramus, because I went through it the next day and saw all the limbs and trees and everything else down, and I know there was crazy times there, but I think that I'm understanding everybody was safe. This will be a tertiary thing that would be able to back up the backup of the backup. Is that what we're looking at? So
Yes,
this should be
absolutely.
officer to officer, or, wherever we can work. Can you explain that a little, how that works?
Sure, we have backups in place. The county has backups in place for their radio system, and we also have a backup in place for our radio system. So there's actually almost for the phones there's 3 backups, and for the radios there's like 4 backups. So between the county and us, there's probably about 4 backups.
So if anything
For the
should
radios.
happen with the communications, these are all safety measures that will keep our residents safe.
And one important reason for that is because the county system is a Motorola system, and we're getting the Motorola radios, so that we're tying into their infrastructure, their Motorola infrastructure.
we already have the towers for the unit for the Motorola.
Correct.
Should be upgrading everything to that.
Correct.
And I'm understanding too that as part of it is, I believe it was the fire department already as part of this system, or?
Yeah, they were already transitioning their radios, previously to this system, so they don't need as many radios as us.
They don't need as-
Yeah, they were gradually,
They were upgrading theirs.
gradually upgrading theirs,
So
so,
they're upgraded. So this is the police, OEM, DPW.
not DPW,
Tell me about DPW.
They get a phone call.
They got a
yeah,
phone number.
yeah, they really don't use the radio.
They don't use radio.
Yeah,
Well, I
they,
think Dave would have his because he's a fireman.
they would have to use fire,
So he
yes.
would have his. and-
Well, they're all firemen, they're all volunteers.
So they would-
Most of DPW are firemen
Yeah.
regardless.
So they
So
could
they
use
would
that.
have, they could have their radios.
Yeah, they can
regardless.
always have their radios.
So there's a backup for that.
Correct, yeah, they would be on the fire frequency.
But they can move it over, because I know there was, I happened to be with our clerk and our administrator, we were at the last meeting, and I heard them saying about that, there's a backup for that too, if it happens
Yes,
today.
there is,
Which will keep our residents safe.
absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
All right, hearing or seeing no one else, can I have a motion to close public comment?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, just some brief comments. I do really want to thank Lieutenant Kukowski for sharing Chief Pinto's message with us this evening. Lieutenant, thank you for your leadership, everything you're doing for this transition, and everything you do for this department and this township. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just to echo what Teresa mentioned, I do believe also that Chief's message tonight made it clear that this transition is being carried out in a way that's going to keep our town safe, our residents, and our first responders. He also outlined why these radio and technology upgrades are so important to improving communications, eliminating dead spots, enhancing officer safety, and ensuring our officers have the very best tools to serve our community. And as Chief Pinto has also shared with me and others of this township committee, the transition to Bergen County Peace Officer was ultimately inevitable, and much of our radio technology was approaching the end of its useful life and would require replacement soon. I do hope that the chief will have the opportunity to come before the township committee to share that perspective directly with our residents. And I also do want to thank the officers who have personally apologized for comments made over the last few months, and we welcome any opportunity for the chief and the department to continue sharing this forward-looking vision we received a glimpse of tonight and have also heard throughout this transition, that our community does remain safe, that this transition will be a great success, and that these technology upgrades will ensure our officers have the best tools and communication system to continue being the outstanding police department that they are today. And I believe the public hearing that message from the chief and the department will help ensure our residents have the facts they deserve and will help our community continue moving forward together. Anybody else? All right. Let's go to approval of the agenda. So before we approve the agenda, can I have a motion to add Resolution 196, acceptance of resignation of Andrew Gorman, Resolution 197 to go out to RFP for a forensic auditor, and also I'm going to add Resolution 198. We already voted on this, but I'm just going to amend it because Mr. Mattson made a great point about Overlook Avenue. Can we, so I'm also going to have a motion to authorize Burgess Associates to conduct a preliminary investigation to determine whether properties along Rochelle Avenue, West Passaic Street, and Overlook Avenue meet the criteria for designation as areas in need of redevelopment and in areas in need of rehabilitation. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'm sorry. Can we also add Central to that? Because I know there's industry on Central Avenue there. Can we add Central?
Railroad Ave.
Railroad Ave?
All right, I mean,
Well, that's more of looking at that. but
yeah,
that's-
so okay, so we're going to add Railroad Avenue and Central Avenue.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mattson, for bringing that to our attention. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call, please.
Committeewoman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Levin?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tronsky?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, all right. Thank you so much. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended?
Motion.
No second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Pucci?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chouwaki?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you so much. Our next item is the introduction of ordinance number 1271-26. This ordinance appropriates $675,000 and authorizes the issuance of $642,500 bonds or notes to fund radio communications and technology upgrades associated with the township's transition to the Bergen County Public Safety Operations Center. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1271-26?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Pucci?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chouwaki?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Thank you so much. Our next item is the introduction of ordinance number 1272-26. This ordinance amends the Historic Home Overlay District to provide the flexibility necessary for improvements that support uses already permitted under the ordinance. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 1272-26?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Pucci?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chouwaki?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right.
Statement.
Please.
So notice is hereby given that ordinance 1271 and 1272-26 was introduced and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Committee of Rochelle Park held today and ordered published in accordance with the law. Said ordinances will be considered for final reading and adoption at a meeting held on July 22nd at 7 p.m. in the Township of Rochelle Park Municipal Building, at which time all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning such ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. Consent agenda, all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Township Committee and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a committee member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Committeewoman Pucci?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Smith?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chouwaki?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. All right, everyone. The next meeting of the Township Committee will be held on Wednesday, July 22nd at 7 o'clock p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.